Very heartwarming story. The grime artist Stormzy has launched a scholarship for black students to attend Cambridge University. The Stormzy Scholarship, which he described as his proudest venture so far, will pay for the tuition fees and provide a maintenance grant for up to 4 years of an undergraduate course. 2 students will be able to use it on their way to Cambridge University next year, and another 2 after that. Now, he decided to announce these plans, which he did at his former school, the Harris City Academy in Croydon, South London, on the day that A-level students were opening their results yesterday, because he's concerned about the number of young black men and women making their way to Britain's top universities. Some of those colleges at Cambridge University didn't take a single black student between 2012 and 2016. So is this a positive move, or is the highlighting of this issue, focusing a scholarship purely on people based on the colour of their skin, is that a retrograde step? Well, let's talk to Simon Woolley. He's director of Operation Black Vote and joins us now. Good morning to you, Simon.
Morning, Julia.
Do you think this is a good move overall?
Well, I think, as you said in your introduction, it's a heartwarming story. It's a great story.
I do like a star who puts his money where his mouth is, I have to say.
That's absolutely right. And a lot of people talk about injustice, but, he's walking the walk and talking the talk at the same time. And he does 2 things, really. One, fantastically, he helps these students that might find it difficult to go through our elite colleges. But he also inspires a generation to believe, to think big, and to believe that these places are for them too, and we're all better off for it. So, on so many levels, it works.
Well, this is the thing. Now, what's interesting, of course, Stormzy himself, it's not his real name, by the way, he actually did very well at his school. He had 6 A stars, 3 A's and 3 B's at GCSE. He then went on to do not very well in his A levels, didn't get the grades he wanted, but he had his sights set on going to Oxbridge when he was younger. It was something that was on the cards for him, but which we know for many children, it's just something, or going to university at all is considered to be out of the realms of normal life, but certainly going to the world acclaimed top universities is totally off the agenda, and they often will see this because he got that sort of Brideshead Revisited idea. There's dreaming spires and lots of sort of posh old Etonians wandering around wearing caps and silly gowns and bow ties and the like, and they'll just think, look, it's nothing for me. But we've not got that problem just with black students. We've got that problem particularly also with white working class students as well, who think it's not for them. So is it right to focus on black students? I mean, to a certain extent, you could argue that a bright middle-class private school educated black student could be eligible for this grant, for this money, as opposed to, say, a poor white working class girl or guy who perhaps might need that money rather more.
Well, no, I mean, I think what he's focusing on is those 2 aspects. It is race and class. And you'll find a disproportionately large number of BME community of students are in that area, if you like, suffering from discrimination and from the class factor too. What's interesting in this is that many of our elite institutions are not taking as many black students as they ought to.
When you say as they ought to, how many ought they take?
Well, a lot more than some of these colleges, as you highlighted in your introduction. Some of them have taken none whatsoever.
Well, but it depends the reasons why they're not taking them, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. And so it's not as though they're not getting the grades.
Well, no, you're quite wrong. That's the issue. Very few black students in this country, for a lot of the reasons you've talked about income and where they grow up, the family situations they're growing up in, and the schools they're attending, unfortunately, very few black pupils actually get the grades where they can even think about applying to these top universities. And actually, in Oxford, the statistics for Oxford actually showed that there is actually a slight positive discrimination. You're more likely to get in as a black student than a white student of those who apply. But you've got a tiny percentage going to the sort of schools to get the sort of A-level grades they're getting. Very few actually getting those grades, and very few who then even apply to those universities. So when you say these colleges should be taking, or these universities should be taking more of these pupils, how can they take a pupil who didn't apply, who got C grades?
No, well, you can't take a person that doesn't apply and who get C grades. That's not my point, Julie. You know it isn't. What I'm saying is that those that do get the grades are still not getting through in proportionate numbers. And one of the obstacles as well is that, one, they're not getting through, but as you also suggested, that some people are not even applying because they know the financial barriers. I mean,
well, there's no wait. There's no bigger financial barrier to go to Oxbridge as there is to go to London Metropolitan University.
a young man contacted me, Roy Saleri, and he's got a place at Keble College, Oxford, but he's struggling with the costs. And so he's opened a Gofundme, Hackney to Oxford. And this is some of the challenges that these young black men and women
are facing. Simon, there is no greater cost to go to Oxford or Cambridge than there is to go to any other university.
No, well, there is in regards to not just the fees, but also the living conditions. And of course...
Living conditions. Most Oxford and Cambridge colleges now you can live in all 3 years. They've made a massive big point of that to keep the cost down. And there are plenty of scholarships and bursaries.
Whether it's Oxford or any other colleges. So the task to get in there in the first place, as you suggested, is huge. And then when you find yourself there, that you cannot really afford the cost, and so you've got to go to a GoFundMe, like this young man Roy has, is a problem that Stormzy is addressing.
But why? No, but that's not peculiar to a young black man or woman. That is the cost of going to university. Simon, finish. I don't approve of tuition fees. I would not have tuition fees. Certainly not in the thousands.
I know that because you and I had free tuition.
Yeah,
and
I had a maintenance. I had a maintenance grant as well.
No, I get that. But the point is that if you have a disproportionate amount of black people who are in the poorer bracket, then they are disproportionately affected.
No, but a white 18-year-old who comes Simon, let me speak. A white 18-year-old from a working class housing estate who went to a cruddy bog standard comp is in exactly the same financial position as a black student at that school from the same background. It's got nothing to do with their skin colour.
In that economic situation.
Why is that relevant?
Because what it means is that the numbers are disproportionately affected just by the factors. If you're black, you're more likely to be poor. And the reason why that you're more likely to be poor, and this is the biggest point, Julie, and you know this better than most, is because if you're black, you find it harder to get a job because a lot of employers are looking at African and Asian names.
Yeah.
And not giving these individuals an interview.
But we also know if you're black, you're far more likely to come from a single-parent family, which has a massive impact on household income.
All these
factors,
Julia,
that's not racism. That's just people's personal choices.
It is. Look, we've talked about this before, and I don't know why you keep being in denial of the structural inequalities.
I haven't denied that. I think there are structural inequalities. I think there is racism. I think there's all of that. But that doesn't explain every aspect of these lives.
You speak for a lot. It's your program. Let your guests speak a little bit. So in this structural inequality, where because of your finances, you are more likely not to be able to go to these institutions, then that community is very badly affected. Now, if we address some of the big structural stuff, like getting a job, like having the opportunity to go to these institutions, we have a much more fairer and dynamic society in which we all benefit.
Okay, let's go back to the kids who are applying to go to Oxford and Cambridge. And I've seen this across the board, the number of people who say it's not for them. It's not. And I can absolutely understand when you're a working class kid and certainly if you're black, although interestingly, we don't have this issue among many Asian children, either of a Chinese background or particularly Indian backgrounds who do very well getting in. But one of the issues that's been that Oxford and Cambridge have released in terms of their figures is that even when you do get a young person who's gone to a good enough school and who's got the education, they can get the sort of grades that they can think about applying to Oxford and Cambridge. And bearing in mind, we always hear about some kid who's applied who got 3 grade A stars and didn't get in. Bearing in mind that pretty much every person who applies has those sort of grades, and only 1 in 5 of those who apply, whatever their income, whatever the colour of their skin, whatever their school, is going to get in.
There are a lot of factors around that.
But that's it. You just asked me to let you speak. Can you let me speak? One of the key things is that the Oxford and Cambridge are keen to point out is the few who apply, the few who actually get the grades that they need when they get an offer and then actually reach those grades. But the other key thing is they are more likely to apply, ethnic minority candidates, for the key popular subjects like medicine, like law, at Oxford, PPE, philosophy, politics, economics. These are massively oversubscribed subjects where far, far more people don't get in because of those subjects. Is part of the problem that actually we need to have more outreach programs to explain to a lot of these young people about, to improve their chances to get into these colleges.
Yeah. No, I think you're right on that one. No, we do agree wholeheartedly that the outreach program to local schools about what is the route. I mean, if you're middle class, if you're posh, then you get to know the route to these colleges much more than if you're on a council estate. That's the absolute truth. Not only that, too, is that you have the social capital. You can get references. When they call you in for an interview, a lot of the language they use, a lot of the references they use are alien to a lot of working class, black and white students. And so filling in the gap, equipping them with the tools that they can compete. I mean, bearing in mind now, how can a working class kid compete with a privileged kid with all the insights and the travel and the connections they have? It's very difficult.
There's no question at all. But my point is that's got very, very little to do with the colour of their skin and far more to do with their their income and the school they've gone to. And perhaps Stormzy should have given that a scholarship to kids from poorer backgrounds as opposed to black kids, because I knew quite a lot of young black and Asian men and women who were at Oxford University when I was there, and I think all but one came from top public schools. I didn't go to one of those.